In this week's episode of the What's Going On podcast, we talk about the Democrats and teen mental health. Listen as we uncover or cover some of the weaknesses of the Democratic Party. This week, we actually had something positive to say about the Republican Party. In our Save the Children segment, we share personal insights into handling teen mental health. I'm Thomas Corley with Keith Pickens and Michael Miller. This is the What's Going On podcast. Thank you for listening. What's going on, Keith Pickens?
Hey, what's going on, TC?
Not much. What's going on, Mike Miller?
Hey, Keith.
Hey,
Tom.
what's going on, Mike?
How you guys doing? Good morning. Good afternoon.
It's a good day.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Keith. How you guys doing?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good.
Hang in there.
At the end of our last session, we talked about possibly talking about the Democrats and what's going on with them. It's funny enough that there was an article that came up, and it said it was about 3 days ago, and it was talking about the same thing we were thinking about talking about this week. So that kind of ties into what we have going on this week. There was a poll done. Voters perceive Democratic Party as out of touch, woke, and weak. The whole situation with Donald Trump winning twice. What does that say? Well, not just Donald Trump winning twice. The Senate is Republican-based, and the House is Republican. Mike, what is it that you think the Democrats are lacking?
Is there use of media?
Yeah, strategy-wise, you're right.
Right.
The Republicans were all over podcasts. They weren't using a regular stream.
The Democrats' use of media was not the best. But you have to remember that the heads of most of the major media organizations kiss the ring, so it's hard for the Democrats to get a message out. Let me back up a minute.
Yeah, I gotta say, because first of all, what is their message? You said get a message out. What is their message?
Yeah.
Hit it right on the head. When I went to the Juneteenth celebration in Benton Harbor, I stopped at the Democratic Party's table and had a conversation with the guys there. As soon as I mentioned this very issue, the use of media, and not having a strong enough message, making sure that people understood that this guy is a con man, a convicted felon wants to have control of the purse book of the United States government. They did not use that message strongly enough. I was cut off very quickly by this guy who said, oh, we're hoping that in the next election cycle, this, that, and the other, and it lost me. It lost me immediately because the Democrats aren't willing to listen. You cannot be weak and go for power anymore. No.
Okay, so now that they had the election, and Kamala was speaking that way, and Clinton was speaking that way, and all her surrogates were speaking to the fact that he was not the right guy to be in office. That didn't work.
Because they were speaking about it, but you didn't see it in heavy rotation in the media.
Okay.
The FBI did a study, and they had, I think it was 30 people. 29 of them were FBI agents. One was just a regular person. They put a picture of a triangle up and said, what do you see? All 29 agents were instructed to say they see a square. So one by one, they questioned each person. They said, I see a square, I see a square. And everybody heard each person say, I see a square. So now this one person who wasn't an FBI agent and can clearly see a triangle, by the time it got to this person, they said square, even though it was clearly a triangle. And they said, well, why did you do that? Well, he didn't want to seem like they were crazy or something was wrong. They just wanted to go along with the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's what we have here. Use of media. If somebody keeps telling you this was wrong, and everybody says, yeah, we're going to agree with you, and they keep saying it, people start to believe it in order not to appear going against the grain. Well, I'm going to say that too because everybody else is saying that. Well, no. It was a triangle. If this person had said it was a triangle, there was no failing this test. There was no right or wrong here. They just wanted to see what the person would do. And the person said, no, it's a square, simply because everybody else said it's a square. So if everybody else says immigration is bad, this is bad, if a leader of a party is saying this and everybody just starts agreeing and the media keeps putting that message out there and the hoi polloi continue to look at it, then that's what they do. That's how the human brain works.
I get what you're saying, Mike, but now that the Republicans are in office and they're running things, the Democrats they're not standing on any type of foundation.
No, not that we know of.
Well, it's evident because the big, beautiful bill got passed. You got all these crazy things going with ICE. The Democrats are not making enough noise as a party.
True.
Part of the problem, I think, guys, is obviously sleight of hand, because if somebody can tell you that a triangle is a square and you begin to believe it, that's a problem, okay? And we do realize that the messaging from the Republican Party is predicated on whatever Donald Trump says. And we know that's so far from reality. We're in the twilight zone.
Right.
His messaging, no matter what he says, if he says up is down and down is up, at least people in the Republican Party, they're going to not only celebrate that, they're going to believe it, they're going to embrace it. And so basically, to your point, Mike, there's not a cohesive message coming out of the Democratic camp. There's no solidarity in terms of the way they present a message, and it's not even clear that they're on the same page. I like Jasmine Crockett. She gets out there and she fights, and put a message out. Right. But I don't want to say it's too little, too late, but she's going up against Goliath, and it's really tough because she doesn't necessarily have the backing all together. And when her message is out there, you don't see a lot of other Democrats embracing it. I think that for so long, the rules of the game, well, let me put it this way. The rules of the game have changed. The politics,
that's what Mike is saying.
Yeah, but I mean it from the standpoint of time, and I've said this before, there's no such thing as a fair fight, period. To be polite and fight fair and go along with what was then the rules, but the rules have changed. It's totally helter-skelter. And so the Republicans stand on whatever their leader says, which their leader is Donald Trump. They back it even if they know it's wrong, which is crazy to me. But I always think back to Obama, when Obama was in office, and this is something that'll always stay with me. When they tried to block everything that he was doing, even this opportunity to put somebody on the Supreme Court, which to this day is really benefiting the Republican Party, because they pretty much iced him out. They iced out his selection. They made sure that person would not be nominated to the Supreme Court. And right. That, in effect, gave the Republicans a chance to nominate that person, which at that point slandered the court, because it's not just the Congress and the Senate that's Republican. The Supreme Court is slanted. They have to bring in the judicial, because it's three facets that we have to look at.
Yes.
That sets the checks and balances in place.
Right.
And so I think that while Democrats have always wanted to do the right thing and to play fair and to play nice, the sandbox is it's muddied now, man. It's unfortunate because a lot of it from the Republican standpoint is undermining. It's playing on the American psyche, but they're going to have to find a way to counteract that, because their message is so strong. They're talking so loud. No matter what the Democrats say, they're not being heard. The effect that they might, but let's say they have a message out there, we can't hear it because everything is, to your point, Mike, the media is fixated on Donald Trump. Look at the conservative media, Fox News. But even if you look at MSNBC, if you look at CNN, he's got so much going on. Everything is fixated on him. So it's hard to get a message through, because if you turned on the news right now, I guarantee you they're talking about Donald Trump. Okay?
Right.
And so he's got to the point where the cards that he's playing, man, he's got all aces. Right, so he continue, and no pun intended. Trump is trumping us, right? Or he's trumping the Democrats. He's running to Boston. The Democratic Party has been totally nullified. And I saw something. Barack Obama was attending a rally in New Jersey for the new governor to support the Democratic candidate. And basically, what he said is, we have to send out a meaningful message. We can't. I'm paraphrasing. We can't be nice about how we present our message. We have to stand on how we feel, and we have to let the people know that we support them for health care, for jobs.
And
because that's what means something that people, not this other, Mike said, hoi polloi, not this other stuff that they're spouting,
Right.
But their messages has got to be more on point. And they can't be so passive about defending what they stand for, because if they stand for the people want to know that when they get in office, they're going to do what is right for the people. Trump said he was going to do one thing, and everybody knows he did another. I mean, that we need messaging from the Democrats that suggests they've got a plan, and when they get in office, they're going to implement that plan to the benefit of the people. So I've been a Democrat my entire life, and it's so frustrating to kind of recognize how passive and weak we are. I mean, woke, I don't mind. I like the woke part, so I don't understand why that's really a problem. That's a problem for the Republicans. But weak is not good, and we're coming across as extremely weak. Yeah.
Correct.
Bernie Sanders is an independent, and his message is closer to the Democratic message than the Democratic message. That's the sad part. He's left the center. He's independent, which means he can swing closer to center, but his messaging really is more appealing to what would have been old school Democrats.
Right.
And so that messaging on the Democratic side is going to have to change, and they're going to have to get behind a strong leader, whether it be a governor, a newly elected governor.
Right.
They're going to have to find somebody, identify that person, and allow them to be the voice so that people can start to embrace the party and the candidates again. But the Democrats are lost.
They are. That's what I'm saying. You guys are saying that if they had a message, it's not being heard. And I'm saying, I don't even think they have a message.
No, I have not heard a consistent, other than the other side is bad. Is what's wrong
Right.
with
That's
the
they keep
bill and-
pointing fingers at them instead of saying, this is what we can do for you as a party.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly, because the midterms are next year.
Right.
So, we're assuming the midterms are next year. And
They're next year, Michael. There's no dictatorship going on here.
Yeah.
Go back and read your papers from 1942. We've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
My prediction is he's going to invent a crisis.
Right.
In which he's going to say we can't have any elections. The Congress is going to be complicit, and the courts they're not going to do anything.
Right.
If he comes up and says, Russia's gone crazy, war is imminent, we can't have any elections, we can't change anything. Because you really have to think about it. If we did have midterm elections, I would think that the Democrats would have a sweep into the House and Senate because of what's happened. Nothing that he said, nothing that he ran on, he's done, other than the immigration issue. So people are worse off economically, and they're going to be far worse off with this big bunch of bull that was passed.
But some of those things are going to affect until after the midterms. So people won't see that. They won't have the effect, I'm saying.
You're right. That was genius. All this stuff is not going to affect people until after the midterms. So it'll be too late.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be too late, guys, because the messaging has to be out there. Like I said, the article that I read where Obama said the messaging, we've missed the opportunity, but it's still not too late.
Right.
You know that it's not going into effect until afterwards. But we have to clarify what's forthcoming.
Right.
Yes.
People, we can't just sleep through the session and then just wait until after the election and then say, okay, now we want to talk about it.
No, you're right.
We have to have that voice, man. And I don't hear it coming out of the party. I hear a lot of media heads when I watch the news talk about some things that give me pause or food for thought. But I don't see any representatives from the party communicating those same things. And that's the shame of it, because it's like they put their head in the sand. They lost big. They've accepted that they lost big, and they're just trying to wait for it to go away. Well, guess what? It's not going away. It's not going to blow over. And Mike, like you said, maybe what you said is a little extreme, although I don't think that it's unrealistic. Okay, because I'm seeing things now that I never thought I would see. So I'm not going to say that it's not possible. To Tom's point, it might not be probable, but it is possible. Yeah. I just think that we can't sit on our hands and not do something. And right now, there's a lot of hands sitting. Anytime a Democrat says something, it's totally discounted by a falsehood. I don't know when the reality is going to become reality again. That's the part that scares me. That literally, and people have evidence and facts to know that it's not true. They embrace it as the truth. And that's something that I have to acknowledge that the
Yes.
Republicans do very, very, very well.
Thank
And,
you.
yeah, and it's,
Yes, they do.
it's it's
Uh-huh.
scary. We're in uncharted waters, as they say. We're in a place we've never been before. But
Right.
I'm a believer that anything is possible. And I don't mean that to be negative, but I've said it 100 times. I'll continue to say it. Just because this has always been the United States of America, a democratic nation, it doesn't mean it always has to be. We're sitting on that. We're
Right.
embracing that. We think
Right.
that all we
Right.
have to do is just sit around and live out the freedoms that we currently have, and all is good. But there's somebody lurking out there, man. There's an evil spirit out there lurking,
Right.
trying to turn
Right.
this thing around. And it can be different if we don't come up with a plan to make it different. Democracy, I've taken it for granted for years. It's always been at the forefront, but now it's at risk. No, I mean, the Constitution, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and now you're asked if you have to uphold the Constitution. Donald Trump was asked if he has to uphold the Constitution, and he said he doesn't know.
Right.
Why did
But
you
no.
ask? Why did you pledge to uphold the Constitution
Right.
if you know that's what your job is?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the senators as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Uphold the Constitution. Nobody's holding them accountable. There you have it.
Yeah.
This is like we said, democracy requires participation
Par-
and it requires maintenance.
Those two.
This country is only 249 years old. The country will be 250 years old next year. Democracy, as we know it, took 249 years to get to the point where it's being dismantled. The question becomes, do the inhabitants of this land want to continue with democracy, or do you want to keep going toward a fascist autocracy,
Mm-hmm.
which, it shows in history what's going to happen. It's no different. But I don't think that our educational system have educated people enough to know, that would be a civics class, to know what democracy is, what it takes to maintain it, and what it took for it to get here. Because it took bloodshed for it to get here.
Right.
Absolutely.
And right now it looks like it's going to take bloodshed to keep it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So let's be real about what's about to happen. This is not the first time. Germany was a democracy, not like we know it, but Germany was a democracy before Hitler and the Nazi Party came to power. They were not good for anybody. They had hate and then they just wanted to kill everybody. We see what happens when fascism comes into play. And that's what the Nazis were. They were fascists. The Nazi Party was a fascist party.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Italy had Mussolini, who was fascist.
Mm-hmm.
We see what's going to happen. We see it because we know a little bit about history. But it seems as though the majority of people voting don't know that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know what it really means to keep democracy. I don't know what to tell them.
So do you think, Mike or Tom, that if we have a failed effort in the upcoming elections, that is, if the Democrats aren't able to capture enough seats to overturn at least, if not a congressional or Senate majority, do you think that we're going into a hole so deep that we can't get out of it? Or is that something where we may have to live with an autocracy for a while and then hope that we have people who come after us and are strong enough to put the democracy back in place? Because it's definitely been chipped away at. And to Mike's point, we're not living in a democracy right now. When I want to say slowly, but it feels like we're quickly heading towards an autocracy.
Yep, I'm Craig Grule is where we're racing toward.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep saying I'm very leery about next year's elections. I became more leery as world events continue to unfold, as Putin continues to up the ante. It continues to erode our position in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We are stretched thin militarily, and the military is having a very hard time getting recruits in because, I'm just going to say it, these young non-Black people can't pass the physical to get into the Army.
Really?
Or into the military. Right.
Know
I'm
that.
just going to say it. I don't mean to sound crass, but these fat asses that's been sitting around, now they want to, now I want to be a military. He said, I can come in and do this and do that. Well, you're not physically able to do that. You can push those buttons on the phone real good on the video game, but you can't scale a wall. You can't run 100 yards. You can't run 50 yards without falling the hell out.
25 yards.
Right. And they're having a problem getting recruits that could pass for any branch of the military.
Okay.
And now we get the new results that 1 in 3 American children have pre-diabetes. Oh, gosh. That's even worse. Woo. But you want to kick all of the Black people out of the military, the most fierce fighters that you have. Let's face it, Black males are so feared that it takes 15 armed cops, a helicopter, 2 or 3 drones, some dogs, a SWAT team to deal with one Black man with nothing more than a cell phone and a library card. And all he did was jaywalk. Wow. But look, I'm making a mockery of it, but you see what I'm saying? Now we send in, for one unarmed Black man.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? We some bad people. You don't mess with us, not off the battlefield, and especially not on the battlefield. As we've shown time and time again, in every military campaign that there has ever been, Black people have showed up and showed out. Even when they were discounted, we've always showed up and showed out. I have an uncle that showed up and showed out in World War II.
But can the Democrats enable us to continue to live the freedoms that we've grown accustomed to in a relatively short time for our people?
Right.
I'm still almost hesitant to say that I don't feel like we have all the freedoms that we should have. But even so, I mean, we've lived in a peaceful society, all things considered, for a number of years. And so the charge is, based on what we see today, the Republicans want to go back to the way it was. Can the Democrats, if we get our stuff together, can we save that? Can we sustain this democracy?
We can, but not in our present form. We're going to have to be a lot more forceful. Like you said, Keith, our message is going to have to be a lot more clear. This other side is criminal. They've been criminal since Watergate. Okay, let's be real. Republicans can't win without having an edge. And they do anything they can to get that edge, including breaking into offices of the Democratic National Party. It's been nothing but criminality. And people just don't care. We seem to love criminals in this country.
You said that last session.
Yeah. It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
But I mean,
But Mike, what is the message that they need to stand on? We can't keep saying they're bad and we're good. We got to have something stronger than that.
Okay, in order to win.
Right.
We're not going to win just saying we're good.
No, and that was an analogy of, okay,
I get it. And the reason I say that is because look how the Republicans won. They didn't just say they were good. They went for the lowest common denominator and said, look, you're going to lose your country. We're being overrun. So to counteract that, I'm not saying that this will work, but okay, let's go for a low common denominator. We're being overrun by fascists. Fascists have taken over our government at every level, right down to the greeter. Do you guys want to live in a fascist country where all of your liberties are gone? Your access to education is predicated on the color of your skin. Who gets taught what and who gets to teach is also predicated on the whim of the fascist in chief. Is this what you want? Do you want to live in a society where you're told what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and who you're going to do it with? Or do you want to have freedom to make your own choices?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me throw something at you, Mike. That sounds like the same messaging when they were talking about women's rights. And it didn't help the Democratic Party. As much as I thought it would make a difference, a lot of women didn't vote for that because that was not a priority at their kitchen table.
But I think just kind of rolling into what Mike is saying, I think we got to hit them where they live. And everything Mike is saying, he's right. Paint a picture the way that it's headed. But I think even more importantly is when you hit people at their kitchen table, because it's not just Democratic folk, it's MAGA people too, more MAGA probably, that are going to suffer as a result of these policies that are coming into. People are going to lose their health care, and that's going to be real. They're going to lose their food stamps where they can't buy food at the same rate that they're going to be hungry, right?
Right.
And we've got to let them understand that outside of everything else that you've been sold, this false bill of goods, you'll find out when it happens for real, when you try to go to the hospital and you can't pay that hospital bill and somebody you love doesn't make it, they actually die because the medical coverage that you have is no longer in effect. Or the fact that you can't feed your kids and now they're hungry. I won't say starving, but some people will be in a position where they're going to be starving. I'm not laughing. I'm saying that because it's disgusting to even think about that you care so little for people that you will put the least of these at risk. The poorest people are the ones that are going to be impacted. And we know that this big, ugly bill is benefiting the people who don't really need it. Right. Billionaires don't need more money. We need to continually, that's a message that's out there time, but I think we got to shout it from the rooftops. And when people get those hunger pangs, and when people, like I said, they have a basic illness, no matter what it is, and they can't get coverage for it, that's when it's going to become real. And so, we can't back away from that messaging, or I should say the Democrats can't back away from that messaging, because when people feel it, that's when I think they'll begin to respond. And that red hat that they wear is not going to make a difference at all, because that red hat is not going to feed you. That red hat is not going to keep you from being sick. So I think that people I think that messaging has to hit them where they live.
Right. And I think even before somebody gets sick, I think the tariffs are going to be the eye-opening piece.
Oh, your money is going to be worth so much less.
Yeah.
Right.
Because buying power.
Buying power. Yeah.
What's this thing with the tomatoes now? The agreement that they had for 30 years with Mexico to keep the tomato prices where they are, it's expiring. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to renew it. Of course, Mexico is not interested in renewing it because we're tariffing them. So they saying now the regular tomato is going to go up 21%. And the restaurants are hollering, whoa, for a salad, I got to charge some crazy price now. That's not going to work. I want to go to what Keith said.
See, you just hit me where I live because I like spaghetti, man. I'm going to be mad when I have to pay more for my spaghetti.
Right. That's with the spaghetti. But like you said, Keith, what people really care about is whether or not they're going to be able to afford health care, whether or not their kids are going to be able to go to a good school. Mm-hmm. Housing, living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
That's the message that the Democrats are going to have to pound into people's head. We're going to make sure that you have affordable health care. Mm-hmm. We're going to make sure that the schools that were defunded will be refunded. Mm-hmm. And we're going to make it so that you won't have to live paycheck to paycheck. We're going to make it as good as we can so that you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Because that's what that's what still most people are living, even in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Miss one or two paychecks, woo, the bottom drops out.
Right.
That's bad. We should be at a point in our economic history where there's enough money in this country so that everyone doesn't have to live paycheck to paycheck.
Right. That's the truth.
I'm not trying to talk socialism or anything like that. I'm just saying that the tax situation doesn't have to be the way it is.
Right, exactly.
And I'm going to leave it at that because I know that's going to be a whole nother conversation for a whole nother podcast.
So, teen mental health. Have you guys observed that in your family?
Not so much in my family, like my cousins.
Yeah, cousins and nieces and nephews.
Because they're,
here's where I'm going with it. As we grew up, and I can only speak for myself, I don't remember a family member or a close cousin being depressed.
Yeah.
I can't recall that, but I can see the pressure that kids now to be liked, to be not bullied, to try to fit in. I just see the pressures of all of that now. And I just was wondering if you guys, observe that, and if you have an opinion about that.
I don't have a direct person that comes to mind per se. I do know that through the years, mental health, mental illness, there's been a stigma around even not only talking about it, but acknowledging it in our community. I mean, I've got family members who've dealt with being bipolar, but that was a bad word, right? But we know that's just a health issue that can be dealt with and should be dealt with. But to your point about the kids, man, and what they have to go through today, it's just so fearful. I try to think back, like you said, to when I was coming up and the few things that I had to deal with. But then you want to compound that with the fact that you've got the internet. You've not only had a physical bullying when you were in school now, you got the online bullying. There's just so many things that drive depression. But to your point, young kids want to fit in. It's important for them to fit in for whatever it is, whether it's sports, whether it's how you dress, whether it's your vernacular, whether it's how you dance. I mean, they want, there's so many different ways to try to fit in. And nowadays, kids are, because they're really not interacting nearly as much. To Mike's point, they're on a computer, on a video or whatever. And how do they fit in? How do we continue to provide a positive message for them so that they can have a sense of self-worth? You know what I'm saying? When I deal with kids, I try to, not to overuse this term, I try to meet them where they are, because they're humans. Just because they're younger don't mean that they don't have feelings, that they don't need you to look into their eyes and really communicate a positive message to them. Just to acknowledge them. And so many kids, I see different things where, to your point, Tom, kids are just depressed. They're taking their own life, think they have anywhere to turn. And I can only imagine how difficult and how tough it is to grow up today compared to when we grew up. It was just so basic, right?
Right.
So, yeah, do I think about it? Yeah. I have compassion for people who go through it.
Yeah.
I can chime in on that a little bit. It's like you said, first off, parents, I know people who are listening to this podcast, I know it's tough to limit the screen time of your children, but there's a direct correlation between depression and the amount of screen time that kids have. More than one study has shown that.
Right.
You can look it up for yourself.
Right.
More than one study has shown that. Now, some years ago, I witnessed a child sitting on a computer, supposed to be doing his homework, but what was on there was like a chalkboard, and what was coming across the chalkboard was, "I am worthless. I am nobody." It was being written over and over, and he was sitting there looking at it. And at first, it took me aback a little bit. I said, "Why are you looking at that? Where did you get this from?" His eyes got big, and he turned it off. I told his mother about it. I said, "Look, that wasn't good.
No.
What was he doing looking at that? How did he get to that? But more importantly, what would drive him to think that he was worthless?"
Right.
To the point where he's looking at this on this screen with all the positive reinforcement that he was getting in the household that he was in. Right. That's why I was just shocked.
Right.
And that comes from peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
Did that site ever even come up? Was he in a chat room where somebody did this? Or was it another peer said, "Hey, you should go to this chat room"? I don't know. But what I do know is what I saw. And I acted on it. Parents, you have to sneak up on your children and look at what they're looking at. It's no other way to do it. I'm sorry. You want to trust them, but this is the stuff that's out there. And to a young, vulnerable mind, they might not know. They get sucked into it, and the human brain, garbage in, garbage out. If they get that message over and over again, they're going to think, "Oh, I'm worthless." Who's telling you that? Is somebody in real life telling you? Because nobody in this house is telling you that.
Right.
So where are you getting this? I witnessed it. It's out there. It's in these TikTok videos. Sometimes it's what they call subliminal.
Yeah.
Right. I can remember, what was those guys? Those little blue cartoon characters. What were they called?
Smurfs. Yeah.
Smurfs, yes. They had a video out. They had those little VCR video things or DVDs. And one of the people I worked with showed me the video, and the clouds in the back, it was only for a brief moment. Sex, and it was gone. So if you're not consciously looking for this, "Oh, my kids are in there watching the Smurfs," that was what was on that video. in in the background, I saw the word sex and I saw something else. I can't remember what it was. This stuff has been going on for a long time.
The subliminal messages, you mean?
Because we hear about it, but I actually saw it for myself. I was like, whoa, there it is right there. Because they froze the video so you can see it yourself. And she got it from her children.
Right.
I've said her children, her grandchildren. This is her grandchildren's thing. She brought it in because she saw it. And she said, I want you to see this, Mike. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, whoa. There it was right there.
But Mike,
I told you they were doing it.
To your point, we are responsible for our children, so we have to be parents. And what I mean by that is we can't work so hard or diligently on being their friend because we lose sight of the children, and we've got to shape and mold these children. I could remember when Facebook became, and my kids, and I probably shouldn't have allowed them 10, 12, 15 to even get a page, because I think you're supposed to be 18, but a lot of people were circumventing it by putting in the wrong age. But as soon as they got a page, I got a page, and I became friends with them because you can bet I wanted to make sure as much as possible what they were getting and what they were sending out. And I guess what I'm saying in short is you still have to be able to monitor your child. There's this thing around being cool or being a friend with your child. You can be friendly, but love is much more important. Direction is much more important. Protection is much more important. And so you really have to monitor what's going on with your kids. And not only that, and I'm not going to say our parents, because I don't know how your parents were, but I don't necessarily think at all times they were the best communicators. And I think that it's very important to communicate with your kids and share information that you become aware of so that when they come across certain things, they're already familiar and aware. You don't want it to be new to them. Right. You don't want them exposed to something that you don't want them exposed to. And so I think that we can't be shy about saying to our kids, you shouldn't be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. And, you talk about coming up and having the sex talk with your kids per se. At what age you decide to do that depends on the household. But that's not something that's ever going to go away. Your kids can't learn about sex or smoking weed or drugs by happenstance or by their friends, God forbid, right? So the parents really have to parent up and decide that you're going to be honest with your kid and let them know that the world is full of bad things, good things, all kind of things. And you're going to be responsible to be able to make a decision. I can remember letting my kids know and understand that being your own person is much bigger and better than being a follower.
Yes.
I respect you more if you make a bad decision of your own accord, as opposed to making a bad decision because you decided to do it because somebody else told you to do it. Right. Or they're introduced you to something that you really don't need to be introduced to it. So to this day, I'm proud to say that they're independent thinkers. They're more apt to be leaders because they're going to, when they make a decision around something that they're going to do for themselves, it's not going to be because somebody else made that decision for them or influenced them one way or another. It's because whether or not they did their homework on a certain thing or whether they just became knowledgeable by observation, they know that what's good is good and what's bad is bad. And I think we all try to teach our kids right from wrong. And no matter how you go about it, whether or not it be taking them to church or however you do it, right? You want to make sure that they're independent thinkers and that they know, Tom, to your point earlier, that they have worth and value, that they're loved. Kids need to know that we all need to know that we're loved.
Right.
They know that they're loved. That's just key. And so I think that you have to continually ingrain your kids with the notion that they're good, that they're loved, and that they've got value and they've got worth, because all of these other outside forces are constantly coming out. And to Mike's point, subliminal messages, whether it's in a book, whether it's in a TV show, whether it's, in a podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Messaging is messaging, right?
Right, yes.
And so we have to make sure that our kids have a fluid level of thinking so that they can discern things for themselves. And even if they don't understand it, they have enough wisdom to kind of seek it out, right? Not just take it for face value. I'm praying and I'm happy that my kids are in a sense, beyond that stage. I guess you really never altogether get beyond that stage. But from the standpoint of them being young kids and more impressionable, I'm happy that I've gone beyond that, because I can't imagine, it's got to be really tough to be a parent today. And outside of everything that I just said, there's still the challenges of all of these different forces coming at your children. And you've just got to try to protect them the best way you can.
Right.
Yes, sir.
To learn more about today's topics, become a subscriber, text us, or become a supporter, go to the show description. That's all the time we've got this week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with the What's Going On podcast.